I am not a financial advisor. This show is not financial advice. I am biased towards the XX network because they are sponsors of the show. But the culture vultures and the intellectual snobs and the self-appointed guardians of the muses often frighten off the average person from the free development of this appetite.
The monetary policy normalization that we're seeing all over the world, all it did was simply reveal what we've long pointed out as significant structural issues in the DeFi ecosystem and conflict of interest. And all of those things have been revealed, in effect, as the tide has gone out. So I don't think that's a particularly important part of the question here. Really, the question is that within the DeFi ecosystem, there are these very significant structural issues around transparency, lack of transparency, and I think Agustin did a nice job talking about them. So
Powell is acting like he's some oracle that forewarned everyone that DeFi was not sustainable in times of high interest rates. They, the central banks, were the ones responsible for creating a casino-like environment where memes and NFTs thrived. They kept rates at 0% until CPI hit 10%. Their goal was 2%. They literally failed by 5x over, and now are praising themselves that they knew that this situation was going to happen in advance. Terra Luna failed. Algorithmic stablecoins are prone to death spirals. Even ones that are 150 to 200% backed, there's no getting around to it. There's always going to be that risk. As a matter of fact, even traditional markets, when one currency is pegged to another, it's vulnerable to that spiral as well. This is how George Soros made his fortune. With all of this considered, Bitcoin is still around 20,000. There are enough buyers of crypto that is keeping it above the 2017 high. Every buy, the higher the floor of Bitcoin, this means there's more and more people that are not believing in fiat. That confidence is being lost in fiat.
But what I see is that the development of DeFi is going in one direction, and what we all would like to see from a financial stability is going in another. Therefore, we need to close that gap. We need to work more together with the industry. We probably, I would say, to some extent, we should go slower because we're in a hurry. The problem when you go in a hurry without much reflection is that this leads to accidents, and this is exactly what we're seeing. So the financial stability issues, precise financial stability issues that concern me the most are the contact points between the DeFi world that is out there with the traditional systems.
Augustine Carstens is saying that we're in a hurry and we need to slow down to prevent error. They've been moving at a snail's pace. Augustine is saying that DeFi is going in one direction while banking's going in a different direction, and that's why the central bankers need to meet with the crypto industry. People like Jamie Dimon has been telling Congress that crypto's a Ponzi scheme. Warren Buffett's called it rat poison. But meanwhile, Augustine is saying that this is so important that we need to take our time to regulate this right. And the central banks, therefore the central bankers like Carstens, Powell, Lagarde, are all well aware of the projects utilizing crypto. For any bank to even set up a proof of concept, they need the go-ahead from the local central bank. Maybe the reason why they're in such a hurry is because the incumbents want to actually utilize these networks.
The good news, I suppose, is that the interaction between, from a financial stability standpoint, the interaction between the DeFi ecosystem and the traditional banking system and traditional financial system is not that large at this point. So we were able to witness the DeFi winter, but it didn't have significant effects on the banking system and broader financial stability, and that's a good thing. And I think it demonstrates the weaknesses and the work that needs to be done around regulation carefully and thoughtfully, and gives us a little bit of time, That situation will not persist indefinitely. Ultimately, that's not a stable equilibrium, and we need to be very careful about, and I guess we'll get to this a little later, but we need to be very careful about how crypto activities are taken within the regulatory perimeter. In any case, wherever they take place, as Augustine pointed out, there's a real need for more appropriate regulation so that as a DeFi expands and starts to touch more and more retail customers and that sort of thing, so that appropriate regulation is in place.
The situation will not persist indefinitely. This DeFi winter gives them a little bit of time. Crypto is becoming systemic. It means that it's going to be ingrained into the existing financial system and won't be able to fail. Regulators have to figure out the rules in the event of market crashes so that crypto will be able to absorb the shock. The people that print money and control money are saying that they need to come up with laws for crypto because the next time it's possible the whole entire global financial system will come to a crash when crypto winter starts, i.e. systemic importance.
And one last quick thing to add about the siloing of collateral is that very recently the collateral reports of the stablecoin issuers, the monthly attestation reports, have come out and put actual QSIP numbers on the T-bills. The moment that happens, you know those T-bills really are siloed and they're not available to be repledged in the repo and other securities financing markets. It's exactly the point that some of us have been raising for a while, that this is unsustainable. And so there's been all this pressure on the stablecoin issuers to get all the commercial paper out of their portfolios and go to T-bills. And now that's going to swing the other way and say, you can't be in T-bills, you're siloing collateral now. But how does what's going to give? Something's going to give, I think, at some point. And I don't know how that's going to play out.
Stablecoin companies will buy safe assets like T-bills in order to back their stablecoins. But what's happening right now is there's a shortage of high-quality liquid assets, and that's T-bills and short-term bonds. Basel III banking regulations as well as Dodd-Frank banking regulations will require these banks to hold on to these short-term bonds, and this kind of backs up all the liabilities that they have on their balance sheet with an asset, which would be the T-bills. So you have these stable coins that are now sucking up a lot of these T-bills that are in high demand right now, and these markets are getting massive, and there's no regulation to say, you know, what can back a stable coin. People are assuming that it's going to be short-term bonds, so that's why they're loading up on short-term T-bills.
I also mentioned that there is yet another report to come from the Financial Stability Oversight Council. And that report, they were charged with, one of their charges was to identify regulatory caps. And so that, which was not for some of the others. So there, you know, I of course can't front run anything the council will want to say and determine, but there's more to come, David.
The Financial Stability Oversight Council was established by the Dodd-Frank Act after 2010. And this was the group that made T-bills into high-quality liquid assets that underpin the whole banking system. Now they're coming out with a crypto report very shortly.
The regulators really, if you go back and look at how they reacted to our industry, it wasn't until Facebook Libra came about that they suddenly started caring about our industry. Why? It's what I'm just talking about now. They were very worried. The ECB wrote a paper that said Facebook Libra will become a $3 trillion collateral sinkhole and basically pull all those high quality liquid assets out of the collateral markets, and then the banks will have trouble funding themselves, and then the central banks have to come in and backfill. And they're right. That's exactly right. And so to the extent that these get bigger and bigger and they're sitting outside the system, they start to pose more financial stability problems. And the regulators, I think, can't let that keep happening. And so what will happen with stablecoins is a fascinating question. Is there going to be a pathway open for everybody to go get a bank charter? If that's the case, there's going to be a very interesting upgrade that has to happen, both in terms of capital. You'd be floored at how thin the capital is in most of the crypto intermediaries' balance sheets. And in some cases, they have negative equity. You cannot be a bank with negative equity. you're going to have to raise a staggering amount of capital in order to comply with the bank capital requirements. Okay, so that's one issue. Another issue is the bank level Bank Secrecy Act compliance requirements. There is nobody complying with those in the crypto industry right now because nobody's a bank. And as a result, the closest is, of course, Anchorage, which is an OCC trust company, and you can see what you can see what happened with a cease and desist order for that. And so, bank level compliance is different than non-bank level compliance. And boy, this industry, I think, has a lot of upgrading that is going to have to be done if it ends up becoming banks. So, we'll see how that all plays out. But stable coins, I think, can't stay the way they are right now because they're siloing too much collateral.
The rules of the game is going to change for crypto. It's going to start becoming more and more expensive to even start up a crypto company. So we're going to see a lot of this gets washed away because compliance costs is going to be so astronomical that most companies won't be able to afford it. Not to mention the whole structure of stable coins is going to change. There's a lot of people that argue that, a CBDC will never come. We're only going to have stable coins. And right now, the stable coins are a problem because they're using short-term treasuries, right? So these are all problems that are going to come to the surface in the next couple of years, and this is the time where the winners and losers are going to start really being selected. So we're moving away from a speculation market and more into a utility market, and those that are the strongest will survive.
Is this a stepping stone? Clearly, the regulators are going to have to greenlight it, but at some point, and I believe they will, because they're recognizing that it's just going around them. But going around them is not a sustainable path either. And the reason I say that is the regulators have a lot of tools. We're seeing the SEC, it's taking them in some cases 5 years. In the case of Ripple, it took 7 years to bring the lawsuit. Right? They have a 5-year statute of limitations, and then with a lot of companies, what they'll do is just ask for a tolling agreement to extend the time. The regulators can come after the behavior in this industry for many years, and we've all seen this happen so many times. And so those that are not paying attention can find themselves in trouble fast. And it's in some ways, it's the clash of the East Coast model versus the West Coast model in tech, which is right up both of your alley, because the West Coast model is go ask for forgiveness, and the East Coast model is go ask for permission. And I think the East Coast model is going to win out because the regulators have incredible power when it comes to financial matters. And this notion that we can just do anything and go ask for forgiveness later, a lot of people are going to end up in jail. And a lot of people are going to have made fortunes that were really just Icaruses flying too close to the sun because they didn't pay attention to the regulatory piece, and through consumer protection or lawsuits from attorneys general about deceptive business practices, all that is yet to come in this industry. And those of us who patiently worked with the regulators and asked for permission, I think if we look back on it in 5 or 10 years, certainly my view is that will have been the right way to go.
I respect Caitlin Long. I like Caitlin Long, but I disagree with her. I think a lot of these companies have circumvented regulations, and it's worked out for them. They've saved a lot of money, and as well as they've launched ICOs that were worth billions of dollars, just circumventing the different laws. And as you can see with the SEC, what happens, they go after these companies years and years down the road, and they want a handout, but all the damage was done. I mean, look around in crypto right now. I'll look into my DM box, and it's just filled with people trying to scam me with fake private keys or getting me to try to click a link or trying to join a pump and dump group. It's just riddled with scams, and none of that is being addressed. It's only companies that have deep pockets the SEC is going after, like Ripple. They go after these companies where they know they're going to get money, and then that's it. If they went after a company that was just going to fold and go bankrupt, they wouldn't even do it. And that's why they didn't go after Celsius, and they didn't go after some of these other companies, because those companies didn't have the money to pay them off.
Hi everyone, my name is Jose Aguinaga. I'm the developer of Confiel. Confiel is a proof of concept for building a CBDC on top of the XRP ledger, relying on the Mexican governmental tax revenue system, which issues digital signatures for all the population. So what that means is that XRP wallets and accounts can be derived from this digital signature called Fiel. They are based on RSA 2K bytes signatures and are able to generate the standard wallet, which uses ECDSA signing algorithm. Confiel is a proof of concept that relies on the standard governmental PEM certificate, so that means that can not only work for Mexico but other governmental institutions that use standard digital signatures. Of course, all these transactions relied on XRP.js. Without further ado, I'll show you the demo and how.
CoinFell is a proof of concept for building a CBDC on top of the XRP ledger, and it's specifically for Mexico. They're using SAT, which is a Mexican IRS digital signature called FIEL, and that's why it's called CoinFell. But this was a submission for a Ripple CBDC initiative hackathon. Regret for the things we did can be tempered by time. It is regret for the things we did not that is inconsolable. Thanks everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this and want to support this channel, please consider joining my Patreon.